Welcome back. The time is 29 minutes past 9 on a beautiful Heritage Day, public holiday here in South Africa. And we're going to continue on a somewhat similar theme that I think has to do a lot with the heritage history of South Africa and how we can continue to learn and experience from it. Because I think we can all agree at this point that South Africa's history isn't just in textbooks. It's in the streets, it's in the buildings, and the stories of the people who have lived through it. And today, there's one such people that have gotten a concept that's very, very interesting. The guys out at Jozi, My Jozi Walks, where you can experience the history of South Africa firsthand, and it's led by wellness practitioner and tour guide Faarooq Mangera. Walkers explore Fordsburg North, Fitas, and Mayfair East, neighborhoods that have shaped and have been shaped by apartheid's forced removals, but also the resilience of local communities, from Fordsburg's 14th streets, where shops were replaced to build the plaza that we all know and love today, to Mayfair, where women kept communities together. These walks reveal the stories of resistance, survival, and multicultural life that thrived despite oppressive policies. And if you want to visit and be part of it, you can do that, and you get more information on how to go about it with Faarooq Mangera, who's joining us via virtual platform, to share a bit more information about why these walks are about more than just sightseeing, but they're about remembering, connecting, and celebrating our communities. Faarooq, Jazakallah so much for joining us. Welcome to Salam Media. Really, really excited to be chatting to you on Heritage Day about some really, really wonderful work that you guys are doing when it comes to preserving the history and heritage of South Africa and of Johannesburg.
Thank you, Salelo. And I think I can leave now because you've done my job. You've said everything.
No ways.
You're
I
really
think
good.
there's so much more. There's so much more that we have to unpack about this. But I think first and foremost, the most important part, what inspired this concept, and why Fordsburg, why Fitas and Mayfair, for this concept, such important neighborhoods for South African history, granted, but why go for them specifically with these Jozi My Jozi tours that you guys have established and have come up with?
So first, Jozi My Jozi, Johannesburg in Your Pocket, Gauteng Tourism have come together with a few other people, and they've revived the Jozi Walks, which started around the end of 2018, 2019, and then we had COVID. So Jozi Walks then had to be put in with the mothballs. However, this year they've restarted. We were originally going to have 18 different walks, and now we have 15. They're all really superb. So have a look at them, people, and pick your walk and go on it, and you will discover things that you may have not thought actually exist, and you probably drive past it or drive through the areas, and you don't know the history. So firstly, go and look at all the walks and then pick the one you want. Now we can get to the Fordsburg, Fitas, and Mayfair Easter. So do you want me just to shoot off, or do you want to ask me?
Please continue.
So in terms of being embedded, Fitas was an amazing community. I grew up there, not all my life. I'm 70 now, so I was born in 55, so I'm a Freedom Charter baby. I was conceived in Fitas. The house I was conceived in is still there, and that people on the walk are going to see that house. I'm very proud of it. Streets are not quite the same in the way that they were. However, the historical context remains, and we will be talking very much about the historical context, going back to the 1950s when the Group Areas Act was kind of promulgated and then put in place. People were being moved out of Fitas. And where the resilience and the resistance comes in is that, yeah, a lot of people were moved out. Some bled into Fordsburg. Others bled into Mayfair, and that's an interesting development. A lot of us were moved to Lenasia or Lens. I wasn't here at the time. My parents were, and they were moved out. But many other people resisted and stayed on in Fitas. And I think those are the people we need to celebrate, and they've become invisible because when people go through Fitas, on the way to the west or to the east, or people now moving out into the burbs, you go through Fitas, you drive along 17th Street, you see the decay, you see the destroyed houses and buildings, and not many others have been put up again. There's a couple of taxi parking areas, the school is still there, that kind of thing. But you don't get into the fabric of
Mm.
what people lived in. And the associated area of Fordsburg was politically a hive of activity in the 50s, into the 60s, and into the 70s. And a new generation came about into the 80s. So, famous names, the Kachalias, the Dollies, the Nagdis, various other people who were actually very much living and being part of that area. We didn't all know what they were up to, of course, because of the state's repressive regime at the time. And one little factoid which I didn't know and discovered quite late in life was that the first Frelimo government, the independent Mozambican government, the first Frelimo Minister of Finance in Mozambique actually hid out in Fitas for a very long time. Now, I didn't know that. I don't think a lot of other people knew that either.
That's very interesting.
It really is, because I mean,
Yeah.
all our exiles went to Zambia and Zimbabwe. Well, not Zimbabwe at the time, but Zambia and further north, Tanzania, some to Kenya, a lot to Europe and other places. But we had people who had come and sought refuge in Fitas as well. So we were a refugee area. We were also highly multicultural. There was a propensity of people who looked like me, Hindu and Muslim religion, but across the board, we had Chinese folk, we had lots and lots of people from other parts of South Africa, and some from other parts of Africa. I mean, what we used to refer to, not I, but some people, Zanzibaris, were people who were associated with the mosques. And, we had lots of what we called Bangisabs who had Zanzibari heritage. So we were very multicultural and a wonderful hive of friendship and community. There were some negatives as well. Everybody knew your business. You couldn't misbehave. I remember walking down the street and people would sometimes ask me, "So what was going on in your house last night?" And you'd
Oh
kind
my
of be a
word.
bit, yeah, you'd be a little bit embarrassed and you'd look at the floor and not want to answer. But generally, the idea of it takes a village to bring people up, we were that village. And it's a pity in a way that we've lost it. So hopefully through the walk, we will blend. The eats are not unimportant. So there will be eats along the way that the walkers will be provided. The idea is to get eats which are giving some idea of what the women in the communities did, in the hoods did, because they kept families together. I mean, my mother kept our family together. My dad was at work. People who had shops on 14th Street, it was the women who kept their homes together. People would go home for lunch. Who cooked? Women did. And that was really the glue and the grout. And so the tact that we're taking on this particular walk is the women, the resilience, and how actually apartheid did not work because people bled into the areas they were not supposed to. So when people were moved out of Fitas, forced removal, I mean, my granny's stuff was put out on the street. I arrived, and this was in the early 1980s. She was an old woman at that point. Her stuff was put up on the streets by the infamous GG beetle driving folks who would come and terrorize people. My granny was not the only one. There were loads of other people who had worse experiences, in fact. So what do people do? They got creative. They bled into Mayfair. We had that horrible system, which was necessary, of creating closed corporations where 51% of the corporation belonged to someone who was much lighter hued than I and you, and that made it legitimate. And the other 49% belonged to people who were looking like me or darker. so that we could have a house to stay in. I was one of those people much later in the 80s. There were loads of people earlier on, and they bled into Mayfair, and Mayfair then was referred to as a grey area, which it was, of course. It wasn't black or white. And slowly, the after 94 and building up to 94, when we had kind of the second and third waves of immigration and emigres coming into South Africa, particularly into Johannesburg. So we see the new communities arising, people who are coming directly from Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, Ethiopia. We've got a large Ethiopian community in parts of Mayfair, Malawian, other parts of Africa, and there is a melange again, different, but definitely there. So going back to Fetas, what we have planned is we'll be meeting at the iconic and historic 23rd Street car park. It's safe. We will have security. The mosque is stunning. It hasn't given in to the newfangled 21st century, spend lots of money and put up gold domes. It's a very simple white and the Islamic green, which is great. The church across the road is where we will then take walkers along Krauser Street. We'll do a loop. So we'll go along there, go to 13th Street, have a look at some of the existing houses, walk across to what was 14th Street. Unfortunately, the Fitas Museum is no longer operational. We'll cross over. There's a rabbit farm in Fitas. I don't know how many people know that. And then cross over 17th Street again and walk down towards Fordsburg, actually, but what used to be Burgersdorp that people refer to. Go past the places where the Kachalias lived. Again, the houses are still there and intact. Maybe not as well looked after as they were in the day. And then loop around to the original Bismillah restaurant on Mint Road. And we're going to stop over there for a little bit of a nibble. And we tested the kitchen the other night, and the food was actually good, and I wasn't ill, so I don't expect the walkers will be. We'll grab some water, we'll grab some pieces of fruit, and then walk back over the old Bree Street Bridge. And again, at the foot of that bridge, we had the Jasats, we had Kasim Saluji, who used to live there. 15th Street was famous for the Patha family, who were very active. They gave refuge to a lot of people. A lot of people ate many sandwiches that dear Ispri Patha actually used to make all day long. So we have a lot of that around food. But also, we've managed to get 5 authors. One I have to keep a secret, but it's big. It's very major. And I think everybody who was in Fitas is going to be very excited about the 5th one, was the really big one. The other 4, we've got Jibi Mayat's autobiography, which is published by Jacana, and Jacana very kindly given us a discount for anybody who likes to buy that book. So we'll be sharing that information. The other 3 are living published authors. There's Uncle Chub, Yusuf Garda, who was a teacher in my time. He's written a very interesting book, deeply rooted in sports and the historical context of the area. His book will also be available, and hopefully we'll get either him, if he's feeling well enough, or one of his family people to read a couple of passages from his book for the walkers on the walk. Then we have Mac Karim, who's written 2 books, and on his 3rd, and he'll hopefully be reading, but if not, then we'll take over and do that, on Fordsburg and what used to happen on Saturday nights. And the title of his book is great. And we will have his books for sale as well. And then the 3rd book, which is really, the 4th one, is really interesting. It's by Ghulam Hussain, who happens to be my neighbor down the road. And he's written a book on Fordsburg gangsterism. So this new stuff that we think is new, it's not new. It's been happening.
Child's play.
Yeah, it's been happening. And so we have all of that. And Ghulam will be on the walk with us. So he'll be talking to the walkers as well about his book. And I don't want to give anything away, but Ghulam's got 2 very good ideas. One of them is visual and will be on your screens at some point. and the other is he's having a follow up to his first book. So it's going to be really jam packed. There may not be time for food, but we really are going to be talking a lot.
No, most definitely. Faarooq, unfortunately, we have run out of time, but I think
That,
you've just encapsulated it. I can almost visualize the walk as you were speaking, just the history that is there and having people that have been there since, the beginning, like yourselves, narrating to the younger generation about just how multicultural and how multifaceted, the Johannesburg area was at the time. I think it's very, very important, especially, unfortunately our generation now is becoming quite isolated. People don't mingle as much as you'd expected them to. The born frees are all just inward looking. I think it's very, very important. And we hope our listeners come through and they join this really, really wonderful initiative. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
and can I just give you one last
Yes, quickly, 30 seconds.
Please, absolutely. Go to any and all of the other walks that you can. And if anybody would like the Fit Us walk to be done again after this weekend, they can get in touch with us and we'll definitely do it for them. Thank you.
All right,
And thank you very much.
Pleasure's all ours. Faarooq
Gracias.
Mangera giving us insight on the Jozi Walks 2025 Features Fordsburg, and that part of Johannesburg is going to be a wonderful one. Head over to Jozi My Jozi, and I think they have all the information on their website, and be a part of it, be a part of history, and get it firsthand from people that are still living, breathing, and have experienced it all. Going to take a quick break. When we come back, news and views continues.